Yeah.
Defensive backs, really fun group to study, fun group to get to know, a lot of good stories in there. And we're going to be here for a while because we're not grouping corners and safeties together. Obviously, we're going to go top five corners, spend some time there, and then we'll dive in to your best safeties. So we've done this a couple of ways, Chris. I've known your top five list going in. Sometimes I've got them written down, and then other times I don't know. And this is one of those times I don't know how you're ranking them. I've got a pretty good feel how you're going at 1 and 2, but after that, I'm not sure. So your number five cornerback, fill us in.
My number, yeah, I like that you don't know. This is kind of fun. So I'm going to catch you off guard a little bit. But my number five quarterback is Trevon Diggs. I mean, that's where it starts for me. I don't know
Okay.
why I just chickened out that I said his name wrong, but I said it right? Then it's
You
Trevon,
got it.
right?
Trevon Diggs. You're on.
Okay, good. Yeah, I don't know why I chickened out
You're
there.
1 for 1. It is 2020, not 2019, but you're 1 for 1 on the names.
Yes. But Trevon Diggs, I put him number five. Here's the good about him. He's got great
Yes.
size. He's got a really good jam at the line of scrimmage. He's got very good feet. I really liked how, he got in and out of breaks. I mean, he could plant his foot in the ground and drive on the ball and was really very good at that. Like as good as the top corners in the draft at that. Now, the negatives, maybe a little stiff in the hips, not great at just like when a guy tries to run a go route, his ability to turn and run is a little less than desired when you talk about like the top corners, but it's not bad. And the top speed in general, I think, is something to question. I think he's, again, not slow, but I would think somewhere in the high 4.4s, maybe the low 4.5s. And because of that, there's a little insecurity in his game where he can be grabby too, Paul. He can be grabby, which bothers me. Pass interference.
Yeah. Right. It's an issue. It's a huge issue now, as much as it ever has been in the last 10 years. But as for him running fast, I think there is legit reason to wonder when you watch tape. And it's accelerated that worry, that concern, Chris, because he was healthy at the combine. He did all the drills. He chose not to run. And with the way the world has gone now, there's no way to get a 40 on him. So how much does it bother you, one, that you watch him and like, I don't know if he's a 4.5 guy or not. And then he chose not to run when he was healthy at the combine.
Well, it shows me he has something to hide. Like he knew he wasn't going to put up an astounding number. And I think he knew he was going to put up a number that, man, if it's a bad day, it could hurt my draft stock, right? I think ultimately that's what he and his team probably made that decision for. Now, again, watching on film in the SEC with all those damn good receivers, I have a hard time thinking he'd ran slower than like 4.52 or 4.53. Somewhere in there. I'm not going like, oh man, yeah, he might have ran a 4.6 or something. No way. He can still go. But yeah, it's a little concerning me. It's the number one concern of his game. Now, being Stefon Diggs' brother, man, Paul, when you talk about ball skills out of a corner, it's the best ball skills maybe out of anybody in the draft when it comes to 50-50 ball or I'm playing zone coverage. He's got great feel for what the offense is trying to do and knows how to jump routes and read the quarterback's eye. So he's got great feel in that way.
That makes me wonder why you don't have him higher, because the first thing I have written down here, big elite size. And I know how much you value elite size and traits like that in any kind of potential first-round pick, number one. Number two, I also wrote down tremendous ball skills, great on-ball production this past season. As for the concerns about running, we talked about that, but he also played for Nick Saban, which is a big check in his favor when you talk about a defensive back. How much does it concern you that he's falling, not only because of his speed, but not everybody inside the program will speak real highly of him? And that's something to think about.
I know. It is something to think about. You're right. And, again, these are going to be things that, people are going to have to feel comfortable with him through these video conference, telephone calls and things like that. Well, listen, hey, we just saw his brother, who has a semi-reputation in Minnesota for being a little bit of a pain in the ass. So I think that'll probably cause some trepidation in general too. And again, I of course hear those things off field. I haven't heard it enough to know it for sure to just hang my hat on it. But to your point, Paul, to your point, when you ask, like, you're surprised I don't have him higher. Listen, speed's a big deal for me. If
Yep.
you want to cover receivers like Julio Jones who run 4.37, if you run 4.51,
Hmm.
that's not going to cut it. And then,
Right.
the grabby thing is a little bit of an issue too.
Hmm.
So I think those are the two things I look at between being, a little stiff in the hips, a little grabby, lacks that sixth gear that I'd like to see. That's
Hmm.
why he'll be, that's why he's my number 5 corner, but still like him a whole lot and expect him to be
Right.
drafted somewhere in the top 40 picks of the draft.
Right. And he also brought on the widest range, I thought. I talked to one person that couldn't stand him, hung up the phone, called another evaluator. Hey, he's my number one corner. I love this guy. Can't see why
Wow.
he's falling. I think he's great. So he's the guy who brought on the widest range of evaluation. I don't know who's going to be right or wrong. I just kind of make mental notes and then sift it all down. And that's what I sussed out at the end was there's some guys who really like him and there's some people who don't like him at all. And I didn't have as much variation on the other ones.
Yeah, well, Paul too. I'm big on speed, and I'm big on when
Hmm.
I evaluate my
Yep.
corners. I base them
Hmm.
on the value first off of what they can do in man-to-man coverage.
Yeah.
You can teach guys how to play zone. You can't teach everybody how to run with Odell Beckham Jr. and and,
Hmm.
and Julio Jones up the sideline. That's a special type of athlete and specimen, and we're going to get into some of those here as we go. But
Sure.
that's the biggest
Right.
reason he's not towards the top 2 or 3 corners in the draft for me.
Okay. Trevon Diggs, Alabama, number 5. Who do you have at number 4?
Christian Fulton from LSU. I mean, this is one of my guys right here. Again, I don't think this is a guy that's going top 15 or top 20 in the draft, but I think he very easily could be somewhere between 22 and 32. I do. Now, first off, Paul, just as I said, it's LSU. And LSU,
Hmm.
you know what the defense they play? They
Hmm.
go cover that mother over there. You got him. You see that mother over
Yeah.
there? You cover
You
him.
go get him.
And I
Yeah.
like that. Okay. It's in your face, man to man, 90% of the game. It doesn't matter if we're playing Alabama with four guys or
And
whatever.
did you watch him?
So,
Did you watch him against Alabama? He showed up there.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Against
I
all four of
mean,
those guys.
no doubt. He's a baller. He welcomes the challenge. He's got great toughness. He's got great quicks. His
Hmm.
ability to stick his foot in the ground and and drive on the ball, I thought was as good as just about anybody in the draft. From that standpoint, plays strong. I mean, yes, he's 6 foot 197. He doesn't look like he's 6 foot. He plays a little smaller than that, but his
Hmm.
strength is better than the person that's 6 foot 197. I mean, when he battles bigger receivers downfield, yeah, they might catch it every now and then, but he's not like getting physically outmatched. He's there, he's close, he almost
Yeah.
makes the play. So I'm really impressed with Christian Fulton.
After watching him and listening to some people, I have written down right here in my notes. If Chris doesn't have him in his top 3, ask him why he isn't in his top 3. So he's almost there. He's at
He's
4.
almost
I can
there.
tell you. I can tell you really like him, but why don't you like him even more?
Well, I think the biggest thing, again, will go back to the top end speed conversation. And that's really it for me. I mean, I wrote his acceleration and burst out of transition, out of backpedal is as good as anybody in the class. I'm just trying to get to one of my drive on the field, great open field tackler. My biggest issue is I wish he was a hair faster.
Hmm.
Again, all
Same
right,
thing.
Paul.
Same as
The
Diggs.
great, well, yes, and it's still really good. Again, it's going to be able to
Hmm.
cover 90. But when we're talking about getting into the top 20 picks of the draft, or you're talking about a franchise corner, Paul, there's really not many in history who run in the mid to high 4.4s who will go down as the all-time greats. You go through the list: Darrell Revis, Deion Sanders. The great ones of today with Marlon Humphrey, Marshawn Lattimore. They're low 4.4, high 4.3 type of guys. So again,
Hmm.
I really like the kid. I think the only thing missing would be that long speed. Again, what I'm talking about. When you got to face the elite receivers, will he be able to
Right.
run down the field with all of them and can tend to be a little grabby as well? Really love
Hmm.
the kid. Like, love him. Got a man crush on him. But
Yeah.
yes, I just don't think he's quite in the class as the next 3 guys we're going to get to.
Can you use a first round pick on someone it sounds like you're describing who might be the second corner on whatever team he goes to?
Well, I mean, because he might not be the second corner on whatever team he goes to. I think he's got a good chance to go to a team and still be the first corner. I
And be
do.
the guy?
You
Okay.
know, he'd be the
Okay.
guy. I think he can do that. I do. I'm just saying I have a hair trepidation about saying, oh, he's a top 15 pick just because I wish there was a little bit better of a 4.4 speed instead of 4.46. Everything else
Okay.
about the guy I like. I really do. There's not going to be much complaints about me. And one of my favorite players in the draft, he reminds me of J.C. Jackson up in New England, Paul. He's
Okay.
that type of talent to me. Great strength, really good at changing direction, understands how to play the ball. Like I said, I just wish there was just a half of a more of a rocket up his ass so I could feel comfortable with the speed burners in the NFL that he can run with those type of guys.
Okay. So Diggs, Alabama at 5. Fulton, LSU number 4. Who
So
is your
you
number
got
3
you got
corner?
good reviews for Christian Fulton though from the people you called is what you're telling me.
Absolutely. The so kind of what I do, I will watch him a little myself. I don't think I watch with the same trained eye as you, but I like to have put my eyes on him myself. I'll pick whatever position we're hitting that week. I'll pick 3 or 4 guys, an analyst I really like, a GM I know, an evaluator. I pick 3, and I just kind of
Right.
take notes and see how it lines up with what I saw myself. And everybody, all 3 people I talked to, had much more positive than negative to say about Fulton. And I like that all 3 pointed to the Alabama game and said, you got to watch him play against Alabama. I mean, he was
Right.
all over the field. He didn't get the 4th best of the 4 Alabama studs. He kind of spent time with all of them and showed up that entire game. So
Yeah.
that was somebody unlike Diggs, who, like we talked about, had a wide range. Fulton was pretty solid. Everything I heard about him.
I would be shocked if he doesn't go in the first round. He's a first
That's
round
what it
corner.
sounded like. Yeah, yeah.
He is a first round corner. Again, some of the
Mm-hmm.
guys we've seen drafted at the corner position the last few years, yeah, and then the first round, I would sit here and go, oh, he's every bit as good, if not better, than a lot of them. So, yes,
Right.
if somebody took him at 18 or 19, I wouldn't go, oh, that's
You wouldn't be
crazy.
surprised.
I wouldn't be
Yeah,
shocked. No, I really, really like the kid. I do. I just got 3 guys here in front of him that I
yeah.
like a hair more.
Right. Okay. Let's get there. Number 3. Who do you see?
Jeff Okudah is going to be my number 3.
Whoa,
From
whoa.
Ohio State.
I didn't say number 1.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. Okay, he's number 3. He's number 3.
I,
He's
I've
really
not heard
good.
him. I've not heard him outside at 2. And up until about a week ago, it was really surprising to hear someone had, Henderson ahead of him. So at number 2, I was ready for. I wasn't ready to hear that you have him at number 3. That's a headline.
Yes. Well, the guys I have in front of him are clearly more physically gifted than he is. Okay.
What are other
Okuda
people
really
seeing? What are
Well,
other
they're
people seeing in
seeing a
Okuda that you
really
don't?
well-schooled. This is where you got to be careful. And Okuda's really good. Again, this is where and Pete Dimalitolitis will tell you, I
Yeah,
struggled in ranking, okay, because
yeah.
Okuda technique-wise, playing the position is really
Mm,
well schooled and polished. I mean, he
okay.
really is. Now, he's not the type of corner that they just go, hey, you go guard that guy and man him up all game long. No, they have a lot of different defenses they use. They don't use their corners that way. He gets the ability to play zone coverages a lot of time. He's had a great pass rush there. So I look at it from that standpoint and go, listen, is he the most technically sound? Does he have good speed? Yes. I'm not blown away by it. Okay. All right. Is his ability to stick his foot in the ground and, get in and out of transition? It's all really good, Paul. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me. But, I will question if he's physically as raw talented as Christian Fulton, who I have a spot behind him.
Right.
Again, I like a lot of the things Okudah does, but in the Big Ten, first off, there's not a ton of great
Mm-hmm.
receivers. When he did have to play Penn State and match up with KJ Hamler, it was scary. I mean, if the quarterback at Penn State would have had half a clue, Hamler would have had 100 and something yards if he just went over to him in man-to-man situations. So
Was he man to
again, it
man
goes
on him, or was that
a,
zone?
a
Was
few
that man
times
or
he
zone?
was. A few times, yeah. A few times it was man. But again, they play a lot of zone too. But I just don't see enough physical raw ability for me to sit here and just go, oh, he's a top 5 pick. There's no way he's a top 5 pick. I'm
Really?
sorry. And well,
Really?
that's why you're hearing the Detroit Lions are trying to trade out of the pick. That's why, because they know there's 4 other corners that even if we don't have them ranked above Okudah, we have them a smidgen below. So we're not going to waste the number 3 pick on him when we think there's 4 other guys that we could get 10 picks from now. So I just don't see that great ability to mirror wide receivers, elite athletes, and I don't see the elite long speed. Again, I'm going to say, for a corner to be in the top 5 or top 10, and he runs 4.48, that's insane. That's great slot corner type speed. That's not, again, when you get into the all-time great corners of Dion, like I said, Darrell Green, Darrell Revis, Marshawn Lattimore. I'm just talking about the guys that can get on an island and play man-to-man. And to me, that's where it starts. Can I trust you to do that? Okay. And then maybe I'll take you in the top 10. He would scare me there. And that's where that's where I notch him down just a little bit.
Couple of things. I mean, Dion set that bar awfully high, running the 4.19 or 4.2, whatever he did. Aren't there a lot of really, really good number 1 cornerbacks in the NFL that are 4.4 guys? I mean, isn't 4.4? It's not great,
but he's closer to 4.5. That's the problem. I would feel a whole lot better if the film said even if he ran 4.48, Paul, and I looked at the film and said, wow, he plays faster than 4.48. Forget that 40 times.
Right.
I have no issue with that. But the film says he runs about 4.48 to 4.5.
That's what he looks. Okay. Hey,
that's to me what he looks like.
I don't want to try and talk you out of what you're seeing. I don't want to try and talk you out of what you're seeing.
You're not going to talk me out. Yeah.
I'm not trying to. I'm playing the curious fan who really sat up when you have everybody else's 1 or 2 corner at number 3. So the speed thing jumps out. Let's keep unpacking this. I want to read a couple of things I have, and you just react to it. You just react to what I have. This is my own observation right here, because I was kind of in this last week just comparing him to CJ Henderson out of Florida, who is either going to show up at number 2 or number 1 for you. I wasn't comparing him to the Clemson kid, Terrell, who we'll talk about as well here coming up. But I wrote down athletically, stylistically similar to Henderson. He's just better. Talk me out of that.
Well, I don't, I think when you're saying better, I want to say he's better technique-wise. There's no way he's as physically raw talented as Henderson. Henderson's ability, first off, Henderson ran down Jamar Chase of LSU. I mean, Henderson has elite speed. Like, I would have guessed watching him that he ran faster than 4.39 at the combine. Henderson's ability to put his foot in the ground and drive on the ball, I think, is elite. I mean, it's like he gets shot out of a cannon. Now, Okudah's is good. Okudah's is good. And he's got great hips, and he's always technically sound with a lot of the things he does. Henderson's a little more raw. He just, again, Florida is a little bit like we talked about with LSU, or what we're going to talk about with Clemson here in a little bit, where they don't I don't think there's a whole lot of teaching going on. It's just, hey, you're awesome. Go cover that guy. And that's what he does all game long. And I put a lot of stock into that. Again, we can teach him technique. We can teach him zone coverages. Maybe he's not as good as Okudah, but I think in a man-to-man situation against the elite receivers in the NFL, I'm going to trust Henderson more than I am in an Okudah. Now, Okudah's more skilled and well-ready and versatile as far as knowing defenses and zone coverages. And this is where I got into an issue when I was going through my ranking. I went, okay, like, is he a hair better as a overall player right now when you take everything into account? Okudah, yes, a lot of the things are very well schooled and put together. But I'm going to go in the cornerback position more with the raw physical ability than I am the schooled technique guy. I am. And also, it's a reason I think you've seen some busts come out of Ohio State. I mean, Eli Apple was the number 10 pick. Garyon Conley was his first-round pick. I think they're really well taught, let alone they have, like, usually the best pass rusher in football coming off the edge that helps them out too. Again, I like Okudah. Let's just make this straight, okay?
Yep. Yep.
Okudah's a top 15 pick.
Okay,
There's
that was
no
my
way
next
I would take
question.
him in the top 5 with as close as everybody else is. Okay, there's no way. Whether you have him 1 or have him 2 or 3, to
Hmm.
me, I don't know how you could look at it and go, "Oh, the difference is that much greater." Like I'll use an example from 2 years ago with Denzel Ward. He was the 4th
Hmm.
pick of the draft. I think you talk to anybody in football right now, they tell you the 27th pick of the draft, Jair Alexander, is better. And,
Right.
that's where, again, it's tough, but I'm going with the raw physical ability because at the end of the day, I want my best corner to be on the
Right.
island with the most elite receivers in football. And I would not sure I would totally trust Okudah to be in that position all the time.
It's interesting you say that because the one word that I had written down multiple times that I heard was he just has more elite traits. And you're saying he doesn't have enough elite traits for me to have him in my top two.
No, he has elite traits again, or I think it's going back into technique wise, where you talk about, oh,
Yeah.
yes, his back pedal, his turn and run are really pretty. The way he breaks down and puts his foot in the ground and breaks on the ball, it's very efficient. But I don't think it's better than the guys we're going to talk about here in a second.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, he might take less steps, but those other guys still have an ability to close on the ball faster than he does because they're noticeably more faster than he is, especially straight away. Again, I really like
Mhm.
Okudah. I think Okudah, though, all right, is like he's Kyle Fuller, the Chicago Bears to me. Really good,
Yeah.
really
Yep.
awesome corner. I mean, he's making $14 million a year. I mean, that's really
Yeah.
good. But
Right.
I'm not going to put him in the elite class of some of the other corners in football right now. You
Before we move
look at
on.
this top 4 corners in football just right now. Okay,
Okay.
Marlon Humphrey, Marshawn Lattimore, Jalen Ramsey, Stephon Gilmore. It's all low 4.4, high 4.3s, Paul. All of them.
So it's still a number one speed thing. Speed is the number one reason that you've got him
Speed
at
is the
3.
number one reason for me, for sure.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Yep.
Okay. All right. So before we move on to the top 2, because I've spent a lot of time getting at the big question of why don't you have him 1 or 2? Let's finish on Okudah with the best thing you can say about him. His number one attribute is
That he has no really weakness to his game. Like I would say that, or really probably his hips. He's got phenomenal hips. His ability to turn and run, or if guys do double moves, I mean, he just moves seamlessly.
does
He's
that
greasy.
mean you would trust him inside or outside?
I wrote one of the things I wrote down last is I'm not so sure for 3 years from now we're not going to start saying he's the best slot corner in football.
And what a
Again, I
value
think
that is
that's
right now. I mean, that's huge.
it is, right? No doubt. I mean, I
Yeah.
wrote Chris Harris Jr. down as one of the guys down. I said, I think he might have a better chance of being him than maybe Kyle Fuller when all's said and done. I
Yep.
like that aspect of him. I think he'll be able to play those techniques well. Again, like I said, he's got really good feet. He can plant his feet good into the ground. But what I
Hmm.
worry about is when he has to cover a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. or Tyreek Hill on the outside, and then he has to
Hmm.
so overcompensate for the fact that they're faster, he has to
Hmm.
back off to a degree where when they want to throw comebacks or curl routes or out routes, he's going to give it away because he's going to be too scared because he's going to go, I know they're going to run by me. And that's what scares
Hmm.
me.
Let's line
Yeah.
him up to your other major surprise you had for me a couple weeks ago. What if he's lined up on Jerry Jeudy? Jeudy against Okudah, who wins?
Well, I mean, that would be a good matchup for Okudah. That would be his kind of guy because Jerry Jeudy is not necessarily overly physical, and then Jerry Jeudy is not fast enough to where he's going to threaten Okudah to run by him. To where I think that matchup would favor a guy like Okudah. Yes.
Okay. If and when they guard each other next year, I'm racing into the building on Monday so we can watch and talk about it. All right.
Okay. Good. Good.
Okay. Okudah out of Ohio State, number 3, bringing us to your number 2 corner.
AJ Terrell from Clemson.
Okay.
Um, I know I've seen a lot of people, some have them mock draft at the end of the first round. Some people, have them in their top 30 players in the draft, all those things. Man, he was one of those guys like Clavon Chason, Paul. I just went away going, I don't understand it. Why is he not higher? All he does
Let's
is
get to
cover
the
the
main
best.
point about him then. I know. Let's get to the main point when you see him dinged. he got beat a couple big time plays. Everybody saw it against LSU.
Right.
People
And
want
I look at it
want to
and
kill him
I
for
look
that.
at I look at it and go, they are such positives and people are missing out. They're positives. He
I
wasn't
hear you.
burned.
Right.
He was all over the best receiver in college football. He was there.
And
You know,
most of
I
that game, he was aggressive. He wasn't timid. I know those are highlight kind of plays that you see as the headline of why he's lower than he ought to be. But for most of that game, he competed against some high end talent, and I thought played very well.
he again, I put Clemson in high regard this way because they are like LSU. They play that you go cover that over there. That's their defense.
Right.
That's what they do. Hey, you just go get him, man him up, and now their defensive coordinator in Clemson. I'm blanking on his name.
Brent
Oh, he
Venables.
said Venables, right? Great, one of
Mm-hmm.
the best defensive coaches in football
Yeah.
as far as creative
Yeah.
scheme. I mean,
Yep.
they put a ton of pressure on AJ Terrell every game. They treat
Mm-hmm.
him like he's a Jalen Ramsey or Darrell Revis. You play
Right.
man, we'll play zone over here with the other 10 guys, and we'll just trust you that you'll lock them down. And Paul,
Yeah.
back to your point there with the LSU game. Listen, I understand, but I came away with more positive than negative with that.
I did
We'll
too.
talk about, well, yeah, right? I mean, first off,
Mm-hmm.
some of the other corners we might have mentioned already, they wouldn't even have been there to make a play on the ball when they were covering Jamar Chase. I would have said, no, Jamar Chase would have just high stepped in the end zone and it would have been no problem.
Right.
This guy was there to have it. Now, let's talk
Yeah.
about the three big plays. There's the big go route for a touchdown on the right sideline. AJ Terrell's there. He's all over it.
Mm-hmm.
Jamar Chase pushes off of him. I mean, I think there's a
Yeah.
good chance that gets called pass interference in the NFL. He falls
And
to
the
the
first pick in
ground.
the draft, is throwing him the ball right on the money as well. I mean,
Well,
he had some things
exactly.
against him in that game. Yeah.
Definitely. Then the other one we talk about, the inside slot fade down the right sideline. Again,
Mm-hmm.
Terrell was all over him.
It's a
It
great
was
throw.
a great throw, and it was just a receiver
Mm-hmm.
who made a great play. But
Right.
that gives me confidence to go, here's a really elite receiver, most likely the
Mm-hmm.
first receiver off the board next year. And
Yeah.
he's there with him in his face, step
Right.
by step, every play. And then even the
Yeah.
touchdown fade down the right and the back end of the end zone. I mean, that was just
Yeah.
I'm sorry to swear, but it's just a great throw.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was. It was
I
two
was
great
very
players, and they made some
impressed.
plays.
I was really impressed with how he competed and came back that entire game and stayed aggressive, never looked scared or never looked like he was down at all after those big plays. I want to read to you a couple of the terms I heard that everybody
Sure.
described him this way in such glowing terms. And I want to hear you describe how you think that'll play out in a positive way on Sundays. He's so rangy, he's so long. How are we going to see that
He
in a
is.
positive way?
Well, he's so rangy and long because if he is playing zone, you're scared because he has unbelievable ability to just sit there, right, Paul? Like he could sit there. Champ Bailey used to do this to me in Denver, where we'd be trying to high-low him and cover two, and he would just sit there. He wouldn't move at all, and I'd be like, "Damn, give me a tell which way you're leaning or anything." Terrell can do the same type of stuff where he's got these unbelievably long arms, but then his acceleration, he's 0 to 60 in 2 steps. So it gives him tremendous range there to where you feel like man, between the length of his arms and the way the kid moves, he really can close some windows in zone coverage, but let alone when he plays man. I mean, he's got a great jam at the line of scrimmage. He can dominate people there. He's got very good feet. He's got good enough feet and acceleration to play off if he wants and just evaluate it and then break on the ball. And then his ability to turn and run with elite athletes down the sideline and go routes is as good as
really good.
anybody in
Yeah.
the draft. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
what other glowing
And
terms did you have?
well, then this is from my own eyes right here, and to me, I correlate it with what you talk about with quarterbacks, what we've talked about a number of times, and it's similar to me in that when you talk about a guy throwing a ball hard, when he's got to get it 60 yards or throw it from one hash to the other, if he's got to wind up and make it look tough, okay, that's a problem. This guy, Terrell, I mean, he moves easily. He makes it look easy, whether he's breaking on a ball, whether he's sitting there in coverage, trying to bait somebody one way or another. If he's making up ground, he moves with the real ease. in all the kind of corner movements that you want to see.
No doubt about it. And again, this is why I would say, like, when I saw Okudah in a few of these situations, I felt
Was
like,
it more
oh,
labored?
he had to
Okay.
dig hard and really do it everything. One of the third or fourth lines I wrote here, because here's my AJ Terrell page, okay, and I know you can't
Don't
read it.
try and read that cursive. Don't do it. Yep.
But one of the things all right, so I wrote, here's the third thing I wrote. All right, I said, I like this kid. He's bump and run, has a similar body to Henderson in Florida. Then I wrote
Mm-hmm.
really long on the field. Man, is he long. And then
Yeah.
I wrote,
Yeah.
to this point, has great closing speed, incredibly good acceleration, really good top end speed, and can really go straight away. And at the end of that, I wrote, it's easy and smooth for him. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
he's having to
Yes.
overexert himself and let his body go out of control to do it. And yes,
Right.
that's what really good corners can do. So that's a good eye by you there, Paul.
And for what it's worth, and some people put stock into this, others don't. It matters to me, and I brought it up with Diggs from Alabama. A lot of times, if you have the trust of somebody who really knows him, like coaches down there, they will describe the kid as a great player. They would love to see one of the players as a high round pick. I mean, it's nothing but good for them. But then they may whisper, "But yeah, but," and then say some things about him. They love him down there. So for whatever that's worth, not only the way you described him physically and the way I did as well, he earned a lot of respect and admiration down in that building.
He competes. He's tough. You could tell he relishes
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
challenge, like you talked about in the LSU game. You could tell he
Mm-hmm.
relished it and he wanted
Right.
it. And a few of the plays he made early in the game, he did that on a weekly basis to me. He'll hit
Yeah.
you. He comes up and
Right.
throws his body around. I mean, and to the biggest point to what you're saying, Paul, nothing more than the film showed that they
Mm-hmm.
liked the kid and had the confidence in the kid because of
Right.
what they did around him. Like I said, it didn't matter who it was. He covered the best receiver, and then they
Right.
did what they wanted with the other 10 guys. And that shows you with
Mm-hmm.
a guy like, Dabo Sweeney and Venables, like you
Yeah.
mentioned,
Yeah.
they don't just like give the keys to the Ferrari to anybody to do that type of stuff. And those are
Right.
special coaches down there.
And when it comes to athletics and competition on a big stage, I mean, any sport, I mean, let's compare it to baseball. If someone in a big game with the bases loaded strikes out twice on national TV, I want to see how he does that third at bat. And that's kind of what he did in that national championship game. He came back and competed after a couple pretty big failures. Now, you described him pretty well that it wasn't all him, but everybody saw the man he was
Yeah.
covering made big plays. And he came back and got after people's asses the rest of the game. And I think that speaks a lot for him. So that
Yeah.
brings us all the way up to number one to review. Diggs was fifth, Fulton out of LSU fourth, Okudah, not one or two. You had him at number three. AJ Terrell from Clemson at number two. Not much suspense there at number one. CJ Henderson, why is he at the top of your list?
Well, I just think he's the most physically gifted of the group. I mean, when you just talk about, speed to close on the ball, great feet that are just smooth again. I'm big of the ability to be in the back pedal, put the foot in the ground, or, hey, the guy looks like he's running a go route on me. I'm turning and running. Oh, wait, he's putting the brakes on to run the comeback. And he could put his foot in the ground and be effortless that way and then re-accelerate to make a play on the ball, let alone, again, another guy like Terrell, it's in your face. He got incredibly long arms, can jam you at the line of scrimmage, really just physically has it all. The hips are greasy smooth too, just like the other two guys we talked about before this. I just look at him really and just go, man, there's no weakness to this guy's football game. I mean, he has
I got
a
to
chance
stop you
to be
right there.
Yeah, go ahead.
Stop
Okay,
you
there
right
is
there.
one weakness. Go ahead.
The giant, but he's not a great tackler. He
Not a
showed to be
great
a pretty poor
tackler.
tackler.
He
Why doesn't
is
that bother you
not.
more?
Well, because how many times have we talked about Deion Sanders tackling since he retired?
Yeah,
That's
but
why.
and here's another
yeah,
but though.
but.
I know Deion was great. I used to work next to him. He was awesome. However, the game has changed now. I mean, think about how many quick screens there are right in front of a corner where he has to tackle now. 20 years ago, they didn't do it as much. Think about all the short crossers that come right in front of those corners who are playing off. you got to be. I mean, maybe it's not your strength, but it can't be such a glaring weakness now either.
No, well, listen, it's the number one thing that bothered me. And it's really where I almost made him number two because of that. Because I just
Yeah,
went, man, you know, for all the greatness you see on film, okay, yes, you're right. There is some below average tackling and some moments where I would have gone, hey, why doesn't he hustling a little harder right here? Okay, that
yeah,
gave me a little trepidation. I'm not gonna lie. Now, again, this is where in-person meetings and things like that to know the guy are going to become very important. And I haven't heard
hmm
much about him as a person off the field. Like I had heard the things you said about AJ Terrell, right?
right.
I knew Okudah was really widely heralded and loved at his
Yes,
school.
yes,
I
very
don't
much.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't know
I
about
didn't.
CJ
Yeah,
Henderson, but the
I didn't
film
hear
is
any.
special.
Yeah, yeah, right. I didn't hear
You
any red flags either on him. No one was jumping up and down raving, but I don't have anything negative to say about things I've learned about him. But physically, I mean, everything up until the tackling. Once you get to the tackling, and that's the separator for a lot of people between Okudah and Henderson. But everything else
Okudah's definitely
physically,
a better tackler. Better tackler,
okay.
yes, yes.
But physically, cover skills, all the upside and potential. I mean, Henderson was at least right there, as Peter King pointed out yesterday, or to maybe even close to half of the buildings, even better than the other guys.
Well, yeah. So okay, I didn't know that, but that makes sense. I
Yeah,
mean,
Peter
yeah,
said in his article, I think, I mean, I don't know if he said 40 or 50, but it was a number close to half of the buildings right now have Henderson as their top guy.
well, yeah, I can understand that. And again, this is a guy that again ran 4.39 at the combine, but when you look at the film, you could sit there and go, man, what did this guy run? 4.32, 4.3 flat? Like
Yeah.
he can fly. I usually write little guesses down before I actually look at their time. And I wrote, looks like he's a 4.35 guy. And then, I
hmm
look at the sheet and go, okay, he ran 4.39, whatever. But yeah,
hmm
I just the physical ability jumps off the screen to me. All right. That is the big thing. And I see Pete Demolenitis is saying, yeah, I see the quote now. He's saying Peter King said 40% of the teams had him higher. I know because again, this is the great conversation with this position is
hmm
yes, Okudah is a little more well schooled and technically sound, but are you going to value that more over the guy who's got just the more physical, raw ability? That's where it's really
hmm
tough. And that's where I struggled with the ranking. I think if I
Yeah.
favored, technique and being sound, I would have gave Okudah probably the number one. But I
Yeah.
don't. I value a little bit more of the raw tools and think that some of the things Okudah is better at can be taught to these guys in the NFL. And that's
Do you think you
ultimately
can?
where yeah.
Do you think Henderson can be taught to be a good tackler, or is that just something that, like anticipation for a quarterback, if you don't have it, you might not learn it?
I think he can get. I think he'll be better at it. I always look at those guys too. Again, and just look at you get in an NFL room,
hmm
as you know, with a bunch of other alpha males, and the coaches aren't shy about calling you out when you miss tackles and stuff like that.
Right.
And then players in the locker room start not liking you because they're going, man, you're turning down
hmm
tackles and costing us money and wins over here.
Yeah.
That shit'll get real in a hurry. So
Right.
I find more
Good
times
point.
than not the environment itself fixes those
hmm
issues, unless the guy is such a jerk or problem child or doesn't love
Yeah.
football off the field to where you feel like you
Yeah.
can't correct it. And if that's the case, then
That's
CJ
right.
Henderson, yeah, then CJ Henderson don't draft him number one. But
Let's run through.
yeah, he doesn't have to be a great tackler, Paul. He's just got to be a good tackler.
Right, which he wasn't most of the
Right.
time.
Yeah.
So I want to run through a couple quick scenarios with him. So Detroit seems like they would like a corner at 3. Would you be comfortable taking Henderson that high?
No, I would not. I
Okay.
would not.
How about how
I think
about
that's why you're hearing. I think that's why you're hearing Detroit rumors about them looking to trade out. I've heard that over the last 48 hours because
why is he not
they're
good? I
no.
mean, why is he not good enough to go that high?
Well, I think some of the things you talked about, okay,
The
and
tackling.
okay, and then a little bit of the rawness of his game to where, hey, we're going to have to teach him a few things to get him to be even a little bit better player for the way we want him to be in the NFL. Because again, when they draft this guy, and especially like Matt Patricia, he's going to want to do exactly what he did with Stephon Gilmore, which was go cover that guy all game long.
Yeah.
And, you know, to me, yes, he just needs to improve on some of those little nuances there for me to be able to say he's a top 5 pick. Top 5 pick at corner position, man, you better be pretty special.
You better be really good.
You'd be really good, yeah.
Okay, how about same thought, but we back off it a little bit. Jacksonville, who knows what they'll do? You look at their roster, they could use the best corner in this draft. So how about at 9 to the Jags? Is that too high?
No, I'm okay with that. You know, I'm really okay with once you start getting into like 7 with the Panthers. Okay. You know, 7 with the Panthers, and then on down. If one of those teams wanted to draft one of these cornerbacks, I think that's where it should be. That's where it should start. You know, I look at like, yes, Henderson and Terrell as being guys that I would draft somewhere between 5 and 12 or 5 and 15. And then I would probably say Okudah, I would go, you know, 10 to 18, somewhere in that range. But, you know, these are elite island type corners.
Do you think Okudah would be a safe steal of a pick at 15, 16, 17? Like, even though you don't like him at 1, if you really like the coordinator at 16 or 17 who got him, would you be like, that is an awesome, great pick for that team?
No doubt. If you're a defense that maybe doesn't value man-to-man quite as much, you value the variety of your coverages, playing zone, you know, if they're a defense, too, that looks at it like, you know, like Vic Fangio, and Vic Fangio's looking at him, right, who plays some man-to-man, but really wants to play a majority of cover 4 and some other zones, and then maybe be able to move him into nickel and do things like that. Hey, I could certainly see Okudah being a great fit for that there. Yeah, because they don't need the guy that's going to be that lockdown man-to-man type corner on the outside, because Fangio is going to play a good amount of zone when he plays defense.
Yeah, scheme specific. You hear that all the time. It's got to be the right fit for the kind of talent.
And that's why I say the guys are number 1 and 2 are 1 and 2, because there is no such thing as scheme specific. You know, it doesn't matter. They're going to be able to play in any scheme because of their great physical ability. So if your team plays man-to-man every play and they want you to be the outside corner, those two, Terrell and Henderson, to me, are going to be okay. Okudah, I would go, ooh, you play man-to-man every play? I mean, yes, he'll be good. I don't know how great he'll be. That's the only thing I question there. That's the difference between the 3.
Yeah. Well, every team is chasing the Kansas City Chiefs, whether in the AFC or NFC. Let's put one more example on this. Let's say the team that gets CJ Henderson plays the Chiefs week 1 of the season, whenever week 1 of this season is he better suited to be stuck on Travis Kelce or on Tyreek Hill? What kind of corner is he?
Tyreek Hill.
Really?
I think I do. Yes. I think he is that type of, that's why I'm talking about him being a top 10 pick, because I think, like, I never saw anybody give Tyreek Hill problems like I've seen Jalen Ramsey give him problems, because Jalen Ramsey could put his long damn arms on him and jam him just to slow some of his quickness off the line of scrimmage. And then Ramsey had the hips and the speed to turn and run with him after that fact. And I think guys like Henderson and Terrell can do that and play that type of game, even with one of the fastest guys in the history of the sport, like a Tyreek Hill.
Okay, corners. There you go. Number 1, CJ Henderson. 2, AJ Terrell. Number 3, the surprise, Jeff Okudah out of Ohio State. 4, Fulton, LSU. And 5, Diggs, Alabama.
Like, I really get to, like, I know I get done, because, like, this is why I hate social media and stuff, because, like, when I start to make these rankings, I just go, oh, I mean, these are my rankings. People are going to think I'm trying to be contrarian or trying to be a headline guy because I'm putting
Which
Jeff
is 100%
third.
not true. Yeah.
I hate that shit. There's nothing that bothers me more. I mean, everybody has CD Lamb as the number 1 receiver. I got him number 1. I didn't go contrarian. Joe Burrow, he's number 1.
Right.
You know, but you know, if you don't agree with the consensus on a few players, oh my gosh! And like, I'm not going to let that pressure me. I've fallen into that trap before.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.